Hello friends and enemies, welcome to or back to Happy For Now. It's me Isabel here with your December stats and highs, lows, surprises, all that good stuff. I read books! I did read books last month. Didn't read much manga, but I did read books, and that is a win, my friends. So if you're new here, I'm just gonna go through my highlights of the month, kind of my lows, DNFs, any of that stuff. And then also obviously tell you my stats. I'm doing this because generally I read 14 plus books a month. I don't love doing a full, I don't want to be here forever. So this just lets me highlight the faves and the bad ones and the surprise ones versus full wrap up, especially on the months when I read 20 plus books, because that's just a lot to go over, especially when they're in all my vlogs. Anyways, let's dive into these stats because I'm pretty happy with December for the kind of month it was, aka I was home for 1.5 weeks. So first up, I read 14 books in the month of December for 2,590 pages. My average rating was a 4, which is shocking because there was that bonkers book vlog. I figured that would drag my average down. It did not. I listened to 11.5 hours of audiobooks. That is at my sped up speed. I read 2 books from my library. I reread 1 book. Age demographics, everything I read was adult titles. And then format wise, I read 9 ebooks and 4 audiobooks. So that's also kind of a surprise for me. I'm pretty happy with that. Next year, I am adding some new stats in around debuts and new to me authors more again, because I really liked doing that before and I just kind of dropped off of it this year, so coming back. But let's talk about my lows of the month, because I got 2. And then I feel like I have more highs. It was a good reading month. I read a lot of good books this month, which was fantastic. So first up, the gingerbread books kind of were a low. So there's a bonkers reading vlog if you want to go check it out. It actually, it got flagged for community content violations. I disputed it. It's in the clear again now, but for a while it wouldn't even show up on people's feeds if they were not logged in. So I was like, rude, but it's back. This is kind of a low, not because these books were terrible or I wouldn't pick up another gingerbread book because of them, but because they almost weren't bonkers enough. Which is not a statement I expected to make, but here we are. It almost was not bonkers enough for me when it comes to the gingerbread books I read. I read 4 of them, and truly, I just feel like we could have upped the ante a little bit more in some of them. Yeah, there was an orgy in one. Yes, there was them almost eating the man to death. I don't know. I just feel like we could have done more. We could have just done a little bit more. And the other one is, unfortunately, Puck and Lutz by Kenneth Ray. This is a really short novella that I got an arc of, and this is an indie author who I've enjoyed works from before. This is a figure skater and a hockey player, which is one of my favorite pairings. I love a more delicate sport, we'll call it, and a hockey player, or a rougher, as we'll call it, sport, or an academic with a hockey player. I just enjoy those. But this was fine. It was just absolutely just fine. Aggressively okay to read. It needed a little more plot, in my opinion, and a little less, carrying it through of, being kind of a vessel for some kind of steam situations. But again, the steam situations weren't even that steamy to an extent. They were steamy, but they weren't steamy. I don't know how else to put it. It was not the worst, absolute worst thing I've ever read. I just really wanted it to be a little more fleshed out than it was. That was my takeaway. It felt, just like I said, kind of almost we were writing to get to, the next point, which was, them boning again. But I also didn't want, too much, I don't know. It's such a weird thing where, I don't want my novellas to be overly plot heavy always either. But this was just missing something. Then let's talk about my surprises, because I have 2. So first of all, we have XOXO by Christina Lee, book 1 in the Roosevelt College series. I listened to this on audio via the Libro FM ARC program that I'm part of. So I got an ARC of this earlier last year. And this surprised me so much. I do want to give a quick content note here before I dive into the book. This follows them getting cancer treatment as children, in flashbacks. And that's kind of carried throughout. There's also panic attacks and anxiety and stuff like that on page. But this follows Lark and Henry, who met in the cancer ward as children, preteens, teenish, have not seen each other in years, and Lark ends up going to the same college as Henry and sees him on his first day there to join their dance program. And Henry, of course, is a quarterback who has had to hide the reality of his diagnosis that he had, and that he went through this treatment because his dad just thinks it'll hurt his football career. And they end up becoming friends again and then dating, and it's really, really precious. It's really sweet. I was nervous about this one, not because I thought it was going to be bad. I just never know what I'm going to think of a college age romance, to be honest with you. I'm just they're always 50-50 for me. I either love it or I hate it. And this was just a nice little surprise. I also felt this was really emotional and really packed a punch in the department of self-discovery and being open with your parents on what you need as an adult versus what their expectations of you are as an adult. I also think that this did a really good job covering how panic attacks can be different for everyone, and anxiety and stuff, and how that can manifest, as well as just like coming out and what that looks like and can look different for everybody, and feeling like people aren't going to accept you, but they do. Just, this was really, really sweet. I actually would really like to read book 2. I think it looks also very fun. But yeah, I loved this pairing. Again, a rough sport with a softer sport, so to speak. And I love to see it. Then we have an arc that comes out in this month, obviously, that I read last month, which is Let's Call a Truce by Amy Buchanan. This is her romance debut. And this surprised me because, like, I wasn't sure. I got this mostly because I was like, this cover is fun. I'm curious. And this is a very fun, like, dislike to lovers situation. They're both single parents. She's a widow. He is not a widow. We do have some things happen in the third act with the ex-wife, so do know that. The other woman drama in this, though, was not exactly what I expected, and I liked that. I appreciated how we handled it. But our hero is doing everything he can to protect his daughter at the end of the day. And part of that is where some of the third act stuff happens and has to do with. But Juliana is like dealing with losing her husband, and it's like we start there, then we fast forward 2 years later, and she's going into this amazing position at work. Is any of this how corporate America-y type stuff would work, or an architectural firm? Probably not, honestly. But that's okay, because it's a romance and it's fiction. Like, it doesn't need to be real. But yeah, I really enjoyed their chemistry. There was such good chemistry between both these characters. I felt like you could feel it on the page, and that surprised me a lot. The audiobook narration was fantastic. I did get an audiobook arc of this from the publisher via their, like, audiobook program, so that's how I listened to it. But yeah, I just had a good time. This was another, like, solid 4-star read. It was better than I expected. I have been so not in a contemporary mood, and I have a ton of contemporary arcs, so I've been really nervous picking them up to see what I'm gonna, like, not like or DNF quickly. And this was not a DNF or anything like that. It truly surprised me. I think it all worked out in a way I just wasn't fully expecting or predicting, and that's never a bad thing. Next, let's talk about my highs. So first up, we have Pack Darling Part 1 and Part 2. We're putting these together. These two live here together. If you watched my vlog when I went to Maine, I read the first book on, like, almost my entire flight. And then I didn't sleep the night before my flight home and read the rest of the other book. Oh my goodness. It's fine. I'm fine. I didn't devour, like, 1,000 pages in the span of, like, I don't know, less than a week, I think. It was quick. It's quick, y'all. So I really, really liked this. I think this is one of those Omegaverse that, like, it's gonna work for some people and it's not gonna work for everybody. And that's okay. That's totally allowed. Obviously, I don't expect things to work for everyone. But I really, really... This, for me, was that thing where I just... Again, that thing where you inhale a book and you're just like, yes, I need more. That was me with Pack Darling. This follows Omega, who, content note, is participating in orthorexia type stuff and dieting things to prevent her heat. So that is a key theme in here. Personally, it didn't trigger any of my eating disorder issues because of how it was presented on page, just like kind of worked for me. But I will say this surprised me so much. So she's doing that. She gets selected to join this, like, very, like, everybody wants to get made into this pack. And this pack has to get basically torn apart to be rebuilt by the end of book 1. And book 2 is a massive grovel session to rebuild the pack that they had to destroy because their current alpha was not doing what he needed to do. And I've never read an Omegaverse like that. I feel like that's very different. That's very unique. It's very fresh of a, like, idea. To have a pack torn apart to then rebuild is, like, just very different. So yeah, I loved this so freaking much, y'all. I had such a good time with it, and I really cannot wait to read Red Fang Royal, which is book 3. I also have the extended epilogue to read. I liked this enough. I hotspotted my phone immediately upon landing at midnight in Maine to make sure I had book 2 downloaded. I also went to the author's store and bought the extended epilogue and book 2 because I was like, screw this. We're just going to go buy them direct and send them to our Kindle. And that is what I did. So Red Fang Royal I'm coming for it, probably in January, but we'll see, or February. I'm very, very excited to get caught up on this one. All right, next we have another arc I read earlier. I got an audiobook arc of this as well from the publisher, and that is Adrift in the Currents, Clean and Clear. Yes, this is the new Shauna Maguire Wayward Children. It comes out, like, next week. If you have liked the other books in the series, pick it up. If you didn't love the last 2, I think you still may like this one, so it might be worth, like, a library checkout. I finished this in a day driving around Charlotte, I think, when we were there. and I had such a good time. It is in my ARC vlog, as is Let's Call It a Truce. That's coming next week for y'all. But yeah, I really had a good time with this one. I think this was fun. I think it was engaging. I liked the world. Like, basically they use these turtles to like travel underwater, and they can breathe underwater. Our main character Nadia has a limb difference, so one of her arms is like missing after the elbow, I believe. And it's just fascinating, this entire world, the way it was all set up, and then what happens at the end. I also haven't seen if we got an announcement that there are more of these being contracted or not, because the initial contract for the Wayward Children series, I believe, was 10 novellas. So I'm like, fingers crossed. I'm not ready to say goodbye personally to this series, so here's hoping we get more, because this was a 5-star. Absolutely loved it. Probably on my favorites of the year list for 2024, which like I hate to do, but I try not to read arcs that are like any later than January in December, because I want to make sure I'm not you know, double stacking too much. Then we have Christmas with the Horned God by Evita Weiss. This is a Christmas novel I got last year and did not read, and I finally was like, you're reading it this year, and my god, I'm so glad I did. This is so good. This plays so much with, oh my gosh, is this book hot as hell? Like, y'all, I was like this at one point reading. I was like, my god, so good. This follows a girl who is headed home for the holidays, and she ends up kind of turning off to go look at this tree farm place that she used to work. The bridge collapses. She runs into her ex, Asher. Her name's Rowan. And Asher has transitioned and basically has like been cut off by their family, and there's something going on. She does not know what's going on yet. Something is going on with Asher. Something happened, and Asher is now different. Even more so than just like transitioning to their more non-binary identity, which is like fantastic, fantabulous. I love it for them. But like, it's just like immediate acceptance of this new Asher from Rowan, which I loved to see. And then we follow them being like snowed in this cabin together, and this kind of looming deadline that they need to get Rowan out of the house by, because there's the great hunt coming, and we start to find out there's a horned god inside of Asher basically that wants to come out, that wants to kill her, and they're like reliving memories and kind of reigniting feelings that never left. It's a good time. This is really good. It's very atmospheric, very creepy, but also very hot. So I don't know, if you haven't picked it up yet, I cannot recommend it enough. Okay, that is everything for December. If you want exact specifics, you can watch vlogs or look at my Instagram stories for like every single book I read. Let me know what you read and loved in December down below. How did you round out your reading year? I did carry 2 books over. We'll talk about them very soon though. So I carried 2 books over, but otherwise I had a really good reading year. So yeah, let me know about your December reads. Did you wrap it up nicely and all that good stuff down below? If you don't do any of that, you can leave me a like cold related emoji, because we are literally about to go from like 50 degrees to 20 degrees in the span of a week, and I'm gonna cry. I'm not built for this. I am not built for this, but I cannot live further south necessarily. It's fine, I'll survive, maybe. Either way, you can do that down below. I'll have links to all these books down there for you. Links to me, I've read anywhere on the internet that I am, and I will talk to y'all in just a few days. Bye.
Already packing, come with me. I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be. Life with no distractions. We'll get away